Hey, D.
What's up?
You know what I'm excited about?
Me?
Always.
Oh.
You know what else I'm excited about?
What are you excited about?
I am excited about one of our free resources that we've got for the people, our Goal Crushers Guide.
Oh, you should be, because I'm excited about it as well.
It's amazing.
Yes.
It's a 7-page guide.
Wow. How many pages?
7!
Wow.
It was designed specifically by us. We didn't outsource this, so you know you're going to get excellence.
Absolutely. You get me and her in this Goal Crusher Guide.
That's right. It's going to help you create and achieve your goals.
We're all about achieving the goals.
Yeah.
So we don't want you to just set them and not achieve them.
That's right. Did I mention it's free?
Free.
Where can they find this free Goal Crushers Guide, babe?
successinblackandwhite.com/resources.
Yes, just put in your email and we are going to email it to you literally right away.
That's right. And when you get it, make sure you check all of your folders so that it isn't going to spam or
That's right.
hidden anywhere from you.
That's right. So go get yours now.
Go get it now. Yo, yo, yo. What's up, everybody? We back in the house one more again. We back one more again. You ready to do this?
I'm ready.
All right.
Hey, everybody. We're back with another episode of Success in Black and White. I messed you up, didn't I?
The pot. Come on, let's do it again.
Oh, okay, ready?
Yeah, I'm not deleting this, but we'll do it again.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Success in Black and White.
The podcast. We are back one more again. We are back one more again. What made you want to switch that up like that?
Because I'm like, I say the exact same thing the exact same way.
Consistency. That's what they know us as.
So when we first got together, I thought maybe like Daryl would really like surprises. Because, you know, I
love
surprises.
surprises.
Daryl, no, you hate surprises. You hate surprises. Don't lie
I love
to the
surprises.
people. No, he hates surprises because he doesn't like anything out of his routine, or that's not the same that we always do. I'm okay with it. I just every once in a while try to mix it up and it never goes well for me.
It went very well. We still did the same thing at some point in the intro.
Do you remember for our anniversary I tried to surprise you?
What did you try to surprise me with?
We went out on a date.
Oh, you talking about with the babysitter came over and stuff? Yeah, you did try to surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of worked.
It almost did. I knew something was up though.
How did you know something was
Because when
up?
I come in, I know the routines and rituals that we have. And remember, I came in.
I told you guys.
And I walked in the house and corn dogs were already going in the toaster oven. And I was like, all right, something's off. I'm observant like that though.
You are.
Like, but the effort was there, and that night was
That's
special,
right.
and it
It
worked
was.
out. So
I still kind of regret not telling you about it earlier though, because I remember we got there and you were like, man, I would have had more energy if I would have known about this.
yeah,
before."
if I would have known, I would have mentally prepared myself. Like when you surprised me like that, I came home, I mentally just like turned off,
Yeah.
just to relax. And I walked in the door and I started looking around and I was like, okay, this is out of the norm.
Yeah.
Something's going down and I don't know what. And I thought we were just kind of expediting the process that night with the kids, like feed them early, put them to bed early, and then we would have time to spend together and do us that night at home. So I just didn't know we were going out.
Oh, yeah.
But then I kind of put it all together and figured it out when you went in the bathroom and never came out. And like I walked back there and you were in like the first half, not the like bathroom part. So I knew you weren't in there boo-booing. And I was like, okay, like something's going on. She's in there getting ready. So
Yeah.
but
I had to look good.
yeah, you
It was
did.
the anniversary.
Yeah, you did. It all worked out though. But I'm observant. You know that about me. I know when
know.
something's off.
That's true.
So yeah.
It's true. Okay. So let's talk tonight about vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Being vulnerable.
Let me give a disclaimer. So
Uh-oh.
y'all getting the raspy Daryl. I just got over fighting another cold. I had the cruds that I think my son gave to me.
Probably.
And right now my voice is kind of recovering, and I still got a little bit of coughs, and that raspiness is in there. So this isn't me trying to sound sexy for you all. This is me recovering. This is a vulnerable time for me right now. I don't sound like myself, and I'm still about to give it to the people. This is a vulnerable time for me. And we're talking about vulnerability. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you know how, so we're going to get back on topic. Well, this is kind of on topic. So, you know how like vulnerable moments, you're just kind of like, oh, about your voice. Let me give some, I guess, clarity to what I'm talking about. So about your voice, you know how when you hear yourself on playback and you're just kind of like, ugh.
Every time I'm like, do I really sound like that?
I don't sound good.
Ooh.
Well, think about it right now for me. And when I say I'm in a vulnerable state, I know off rip that I got a rasp to my voice right now and I don't sound like my normal self. So if even when I'm doing a playback, I'm kind of like, oh, that's me. I don't know about all that. Off rip, I know that I already got some stuff going on. So now that's going to be even more challenging for me to sit and listen through as I'm doing the edits and stuff.
But you sound good. You sound like Keith Sweat.
Really? Like we going all the way back there. Okay. All right, y'all. Well, y'all get the Keith Sweat voice tonight, I guess.
Ow.
Remember the last time this happened?
No.
Remember the last time I had the rasp and somebody, a couple of people actually were like, oh, Daryl, we need you to record like that all the time.
Yeah, like they want you to be sick all the time?
That's what I was saying. I'm like, so you don't like my normal voice? You like my recovering from being sick voice?
Okay, but you do this. We're way off on a tangent now, but
it's all good.
You do this whenever somebody tells you, like at work, like, oh, you look really good. And you're like, well, I don't look good any other day of the week.
Oh, yeah. Think about this now. You come into work one day and they're like, oh, man, like you looking really sharp. You looking nice today. I'm like, what about all the other days? Why don't you tell me all the other days, Daryl, you slipping, you slacking. You can up your game a little bit on your dress. But that one day I come in, oh my gosh, you're doing it today. You're looking good today. I'm like, so what are you saying? All the other days I don't look good? I don't dress fly? Because some days I feel like I'm doing it.
I mean, I feel like you always look good.
I think so. Well, most of the time. There are some days.
But you have better style than I do.
Now I'm going to start.
By far.
Oh my goodness. Vulnerability.
By far.
You know. Now I'm going to feel funny about when I walk into work and what I got on, or when I go places, what I have on.
Nah, you all right. You look good.
I'm just playing, y'all. I don't care about none of that.
And he looks good.
Most days I do.
I told you.
Most days I do. What?
I told you.
Yeah.
It's true. Self-confidence, the key. The key.
It's achy.
It's achy. Achy? Achy. Anyway, we should get on topic. So.
Yeah, go ahead. Bring me back.
What is vulnerability? If we're talking about vulnerability and you're feeling very vulnerable and sharing that you don't like the sound of your voice. No, I don't either.
I love the sound of my voice. I mean, just when it sounds off like right now. Like, This isn't the sound of my voice, but the fact that somebody said, oh man, you need to record like that all the time. I'm like, my regular voice is that fire.
True, it is.
But no.
But this one is just like,
yeah, it's a little
sexy Daryl.
It got a little rasp. So I can see where the kind of the exotic fetishization, is that a word? Fetishization, like, can go on and kind of happen. You know what I mean? Voice kind of raspy.
Right. So vulnerability.
Come on.
So talk to me about what does this mean to you? Vulnerability.
So how about this? How about I give you an example?
Yeah.
And break it down. So for me, vulnerability, if you think about it, and I have a sports background. And in football, basketball, the sports that I primarily played, most times the opposing coach would always try to find a spot that you're vulnerable in. And then that's the spot that they would try to attack or go after. So for instance, if you are vulnerable in your secondary, the opposing coach is going to come out and their quarterback is going to probably pass the ball in basketball, if you're vulnerable in the paint, then that's probably where the opposing coach was going to attack or challenge you. So for me, vulnerability means that it's those areas that are perceived as weak spaces or soft areas, or areas that have been told to you that you should be stronger in, or you should have a stronger sense about yourself in those areas. So when you say vulnerability or being vulnerable, that's kind of immediately what I think of. And, I don't want to speak for all the men who are listening, but I know for me, being vulnerable isn't something that was encouraged. Vulnerable meaning like expressive, emotional, open. That is something that was kind of, told that, hey, Daryl, you should be more vulnerable. You should be more emotional. You should be more expressive. It was always the opposite. Be tough, man up. Don't show them your emotions. Hold it together, be strong. And then you carry it over to the sports example that I gave. You got your coaches is like, oh my goodness. I got an update on my computer while I'm recording. Hopefully it don't mess anything up. And there's another one.
No.
Wow. So hold on for a second. Let me get this right, because I'm going to be mad if something goes down and we lose this, because I'm on fire right now, y'all. Y'all ever seen the Kevin Hart when he did the little episode or the show when he's like, I'm on fire, and he had them bring up the fire behind him when he was on stage? That's what's going on right now. I'm on fire, y'all, so I don't want to lose this. Let me make sure I got all this stuff over here figured out. All right, I'm back. So, that's real life, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is it figured out?
Yeah,
okay.
I guess so. If we hear the updates again, then it's fine. But I just closed all of that stuff out.
Oh, I got
So anyways, what I was saying about the sports, when you go over to that and, you're told as a man to buck up and to not show your expression and stuff. And then you got the coaches like, hey, don't show any vulnerabilities. Don't show any soft spots. Don't show any weak points, because we don't want them to attack us in that way, or to know that those are there. I think for me, speaking on behalf of me personally, and I'm pretty sure a lot of men could resonate with what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what vulnerability is.
That's so interesting, because I think that women have kind of a similar definition, but in a different way. Like, you not necessarily like you said, like be tough and that kind of thing, but more like you don't expose weakness at times that you could be perceived as vulnerable.
Yeah.
So definitely. Like, if you are walking through a parking garage late at night by yourself, you made yourself vulnerable, and you're not supposed to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of interesting, because it was kind of the same, but in a different way, right?
Right. Well, I know you have the real definition over there. So what?
Wait, how do you know that?
What does your definition read?
Because.
What you mean? How do I know that? That's you.
Because it's me. I do have the real definition over here.
How did I know? We have different sets of notes, y'all.
Yeah.
So I don't have the same notes that she has over there, but I know she got the definition over there.
I know. I didn't know how you knew that, because I literally just typed it in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I do have the real definition, and
Shocker.
But I wanted you guys to know it, because I think it goes along with what you said. But there's actually two. The first one is, it means the inability to withstand the effects of a hostile environment. And to me, that one is like the most abrasive term, or the abrasive terminology and definition.
Right.
The second is more so, I think, what we're talking about, and that is a time frame or window within which defensive measures are diminished, compromised, or lacking. So exactly what you were talking about with the football example.
Yes.
Exactly what you're talking about is that's when if you're the opponent, that's when you attack your opponent in football, because you want them to have diminished capacity. That's how you break through the line and you score a touchdown, right? Okay, well, I obviously am not a sports commentator.
Exactly. That's what you do. You break through the line and you score a touchdown.
That's what you do.
That is exactly what you do.
I'm not a sports commentator.
We know.
Disclosure.
You don't have to disclose anything. We know just by that one statement. Thank you for disclosing that, though. We appreciate it. For the record, we appreciate that. You just bust through that line and you just score a touchdown, y'all.
It's kind of what happens. Let's be real.
When you're vulnerable, that's what happens. Your line is weak and the other team just busts through that line when you're vulnerable.
That's right. That's what happens.
And they score a touchdown.
I should be the FSU commentator for football. Yes.
Anybody can do that right now with the way that they're playing.
You did not go there. They only have one game.
Come on, let's keep going.
Anyway.
Don't get me started.
Anyway, so I'm curious about where you think vulnerability, where do you get vulnerability? Like, where do you learn to be vulnerable?
I think that upbringing has a lot to do with it. And I kind of alluded to it earlier when I was speaking for myself. And I know I've said in previous episodes that my dad was pretty tough on me. And it was always, toughen up, quit crying, and I think that upbringing definitely has something to do with it. Also, what I talked about in another episode previously was about my cousins, because I was the only boy in the family, y'all. Just to let y'all know, I was the only boy. I got a whole bunch of sisters. So I spent a lot of time with my male cousins. And I mean, even them, they try to toughen me up, and they used to call me, all kinds of names. And, I don't think anything was malicious. It was just to try to make me tough and to try to make me, man up and buck up. And, now looking back, I appreciate it because I learned so much from it. I would like to see one of them try it now, though. But anyways, that's a episode in itself. But I think that upbringing has a lot to do with it. Oh, yes, it is. Come on. Go ahead.
Anyway, I agree with you, though. I think upbringing does have a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if... don't worry, I didn't look this up. But from my own ponderings, I wonder if birth order has something to do with it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, for instance, I don't feel like I can be... Well, because you're a male, you have a different perspective.
Yeah, I can't be vulnerable.
I was the firstborn, and I had two younger siblings. I had to be strong, and I had to protect them, and I didn't feel like I could show any emotion or vulnerability either.
Yeah.
And so I kind of grew up that way, and then transitioning into my career, because shockingly, it was a sports background.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, even though I apparently know nothing about football.
Did you just break through?
I broke through the line.
Okay, you broke through the line. Okay.
But my supervisors and my mentors were all males. And not only that, I think that in the era that which is we're older millennial generation, we were still kind of held over and taught from the Xers and the baby boomers that you keep your personal life and work separate. You don't combine the two. So it's very different than what we see as trending today in careers with younger millennials and Generation Z starting to come up. You just don't share personal things. You're not vulnerable in your career because definitely. That's not what you did. You don't share anything personal. And now it's totally different. People are making entire careers out of being vulnerable and sharing their personal lives, kind of like what we do. Yeah, exactly what we do. Mm-hmm. And that matters. Yeah. That matters now. And I think that a lot of the earlier generations that we spoke about give the the newer generation a lot of grief about it, but they do. But you know what? We decided the best thing for us to do, not only in our business, but I'm going to speak for you as well, but in career and everything, we decided the best thing for us to do was to adapt, because you're not going to get very far if you cannot be relatable as a human, because that's what people are looking for, is to build relationships. Yeah. I shared with somebody at work recently that was my number one priority. I know that I'm getting paid to do spreadsheets I know I'm getting paid to analyze data, but that's never my very first priority. My very first priority is always to build relationships.
Yeah, and that matters. And that starts with being vulnerable.
Yes.
And putting yourself out there a little bit so that people feel like you're humanized, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's very important. So
when I kind of wonder, like, if your upbringing wasn't, it sounds like because you were the male and because I was the firstborn and we just kind of either took on the role or were encouraged not to be very vulnerable, like to kind of be tough and strong. How did you start to practice vulnerability, and was it hard for you?
Yeah, it was very hard. I think that with some mentorship and finding, the right people to practice it around and to practice it with, and kind of created that, that support and kind of getting insight of what was, too much, what was not enough from people that I trusted, I think kind of helped me open the door to that a little bit. And I think a lot of the other things that we talk about, I kind of had some time to explore those different things and to kind of break through some things that were holding me back from being vulnerable. So we talk about, perception and what other people think about you and fears. I think going through some of those challenges and kind of opening those different doors and exploring those different things and kind of breaking through some of those, it led to me feeling a little bit more comfortable with being more vulnerable.
Okay. For me, I feel like it was, just being honest, I feel like it took me to be in this relationship to understand what the impact being vulnerable had. Because before, I never wanted to be vulnerable, because when you're vulnerable, you open yourself up, kind of like the definition says, you open yourself up to get hurt. And so it took me getting into this relationship to understand that I needed to be vulnerable for the success of the relationship, but that meant that I was going to open up and I could potentially get hurt. And so I think that holds a lot of people back, is they don't want to get hurt. They don't want to get hurt in their personal relationships, in romantic relationships. They don't want to get hurt in their careers or by taking risks in business. And so that's something, like, it's a work in progress. But I think, just for me, like, having you as an accountability partner, as like helping me be more vulnerable, that's been really important, because it not only translates into our relationship, but it translates into what I bring to the table at work. It translates into our business, I think. It translates into this podcast.
Oh, definitely.
Even just hosting the podcast, I feel like we've both been able to open up more, because it's almost a requirement, but then we're like, well, we want to share more of ourselves in order to help people. So it's risky, because you risk people not liking you, or you risk feeling hurt by people who might have terrible things to say about you when you open yourself up. But there is definitely a reward to it too.
Oh, definitely. And one of the things that I've learned by us doing this, and that actually encourages me, is I had no idea how many people were feeling the same way as I felt, or needed to hear what I had to say during my vulnerable states. Mm-hmm. And I was just kind of like you never thought about that, because you try to keep everything tight and keep everything closed.
Yeah.
Because you feel like it's just you.
Yeah.
And
you feel like people are going to be like, well, you're the outlier.
Yeah.
If you feel this way, or you're stupid for thinking this.
Yeah, but that has not been the case.
No. And I think that happens. It was interesting. We were in a meeting the other day with other people who were interested in entrepreneurship, and the topic of fear came up, which we did a podcast just a couple episodes ago about the fears that are holding you back. But it made me think of the fact that not being, or the having...
I guess these updates aren't done. Go ahead, though, baby.
Having to be vulnerable would produce a fear for some people because they don't want to put themselves out there like that. And so, I mean, I think that can hold people back from like succeeding in business, in personal relationships. Like if you have the inability to be vulnerable and to open up, you're probably not going to be successful in a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
You're also probably not going to be successful in your career, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you work for a corporation or an organization. You're probably not going to be that successful because the landscape is changing.
It is changing. Yep. I agree with you 100%.
So I want to talk about kind of the ways that, like, are there individual, or maybe not individual, but are there practices that you use now to help you become more vulnerable or to practice vulnerability? Like if you didn't grow up that way, are there things that you do now that can help you be more vulnerable or practice that so that you can bring that with you wherever you're at, to work, to your relationships? Like what are some things that you do?
Yeah. So the very first thing that I do is, and matter of fact, it's funny that you asked that question because I was talking to someone the other night about something similar. And one of the things that I always do in every situation that I go into, I always go into it on a level playing field. And regardless if I am the person with the most knowledge or most experience or the person at the forefront of the engagement, I always go in with an open mind of what can I learn? What can I take away from this person, this experience, this moment, this situation? And when you talk about being vulnerable, when you go in with that approach, it makes being vulnerable a little easier because by you putting yourself out there, you're going to make the atmosphere and the environment more open and susceptible for you to take away something from it. Meaning that if I go in and I'm vulnerable and I'm open with the person or people that I'm talking to and engaging with, they're going to feel a little bit more comfortable. They're going to be the same way. And in that moment, in that time, I'm going in seeing what I can take away and what I can learn. If I'm the person with the most or more knowledge or skill set or at the forefront of the engagement or what's going on, I'm looking at how am I interacting with the different people, you know? And for me, what I take away is how do I respond with the different people that are in a different room and in different personalities? Because everybody you meet is going to have something unique about them. They're going to have something that is specific to that current environment and situation that you're in. You can always take something away, whether it's just how you engage in a specific situation, a specific environment with a specific person. And that's kind of how I approach a lot. And that's what I was telling the gentleman that I was talking to. I was like, I always going on a level playing field. And my thought process when I go into those situations is, what can I learn? What can I take away? What can I gain from this experience that I'm about to indulge in? And therefore, it offers up me and my vulnerability into that situation, knowing that in return, people are going to see that and they're going to respond, which will, I think, increase the chances and opportunity for me to take something away. That's the first thing that I do. And that's my approach. And it has worked for me. And it has eased me a little bit on being vulnerable. Because if you're going uptight, you're pretty much going to probably isolate yourself. And you're not going to really enjoy or take anything away from the experience. And you're probably not going to engage that much.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. I think it's so important to practice being open as a way to practice vulnerability. I've never been good at this. Never. And even now, like, I'm sure there's times we struggle because I'm the person who, if I feel any tension or anything, I put up walls right away. And so breaking those down is like, I still struggle with this, but it takes practice to break them down. And that practice is usually with a safe person. So kind of like I was talking about before with you. But then I also practice at work. So if there are things that happen at work or I feel upset about something, I try not to shut down and I try to share my feelings instead, knowing that that leaves me open and vulnerable. But it gives me a chance to practice it.
Yeah. My biggest challenge is, is going in with the approach that I normally take, and the people are not being receptive to that. And I encounter that a lot. I encounter it at work. I encounter it with friends, different people, depending on circumstances and situations, where they don't want to be vulnerable because they don't want to be perceived as being stupid, or they don't want to be perceived as, shortcoming. And I'm like, you don't have to know everything all the time. Oh my gosh,
Right.
like, be vulnerable. Like, if you don't know, then
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay to not
Shut
know.
up sometimes. Sit down somewhere. You ain't always got to be the center of attention. You ain't always got to talk. You ain't always got to be correct. You ain't always got to be this and that. And that's why I said I approach all of my situations, or I try to approach all situations with an open mind and going in with what can I take away from this experience. So out the gate, I already am going in with a level mind, knowing that I don't know everything. I'm not going to be, this. I'm not going to perceive that. I'm not going to be this. And it gives me an opportunity to kind of be vulnerable and open up, and to try to encourage other people to be the same way. But I do run into situations where there are some people that just don't respond to it the way that I would prefer or like for them to. And then that's when the emotional intelligence kick in. And I'm just like, all right, so I got to change this and change that and adapt and adjust.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're really good at that, but I know that there's some, like, okay, for instance, there are some people, myself included sometimes, that don't want to speak up, like, in a meeting in front of a bunch of people because they don't want to sound stupid, and that leaves them vulnerable. How do you recommend fixing that or practicing that so that you can feel a little more comfortable speaking up in meetings in front of people?
By going in and doing the exact same thing that I said I do, going in with the intent and the mindset that I'm here to take something away, to learn something, to gain something from this experience. Only way you can do that is by speaking up, asking the questions, getting feedback. So if you go on with that approach, and hopefully it loosens you up, in the vulnerability area, and then hopefully something comes out of it to where if you felt like you were stupid, it was obviously based around something that you felt like you lacked knowledge in. So hopefully you gain the knowledge in that area by speaking up and being vulnerable. Because I'm pretty sure you're not the only one that's sitting in the room that feels that way. But who's going to be the vulnerable one to break through?
Good point. I have another question, and it's based on something that you put in the notes that you sent me before I edited them for me.
Yeah, okay. What you got? Let me look at it and see where you're going to go with this.
Okay, because I just want to know, because this is one of your tips to, like, cultivate vulnerability, and you said to set boundaries. And so when we talk about setting boundaries in order to become more vulnerable, to practice vulnerability, and to be okay with it, what do you mean by that?
So I'm going to speak to you.
Oh, no.
As someone who likes to...
Let me be vulnerable.
Yeah, be in control and have control. No.
Yeah, I'm guilty.
I'm not going to do this to you right now.
It's okay, you can.
But anyways,
I'm open and vulnerable.
Setting the boundaries, meaning that in order for you to feel comfortable being vulnerable, it's your right to be vulnerable. So it's your right to set the boundaries of how you choose to be vulnerable, how vulnerable you want to be, who you want to be vulnerable with, who you want to be vulnerable around.
Oh, okay.
You get to set those boundaries. You know what I mean? So if you know that there is something that you feel vulnerable about, and you want to practice in an instance of being vulnerable, you get to set the boundaries. But the thing is, set those boundaries and go for it. If you're like, I don't know, now I'm just going to sit back. As long as you sit back, you're never going to move forward.
This just brought up for me something else I thought about is, how do you navigate the gray, as you say. How do you navigate the gray of like opening up and being vulnerable and sharing things about your life that make sense and that will connect you to people, and oversharing?
Yeah.
Like we see this often on like social media, is like too much sharing, but then there's times that sharing parts of your personal life will actually help you establish a connection with other people. So how do you distinguish between the two and make sure that you're not oversharing?
You have to be tactful. I don't think there is a such thing as oversharing. Let me backtrack. There is a such thing as oversharing. But you have to be tactful in what you're sharing. And if you want to share a little bit more, a little extra, if you do it tactfully, it won't be perceived as annoying or you oversharing or you looking for attention. How about this? I got an example that just popped into my head.
Okay.
So I'm going to share it. So think about this. This isn't about you or me. This is just an example. Let me make sure I clarify that, because I know people.
You never know.
Yeah. Who's listening in.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going to use this example. So think about this. A work example.
Okay.
Not our work example.
Okay.
Or it could be. So you have a job, right? And you have frustrations with that job, right? And you tell yourself, boy, when I get out of here, or my last day, or when I find something better and I'm out, I'm going to tell them how it is. I'm going to let them know how I feel. I'm going to let them know some things they can do to improve. I'm going to let them know what sucked about this experience. Why won't you tell them while you're in the job? Because it will put you in a vulnerable position, because they will still have access and control to the outcome.
Which is your paycheck.
Which is your paycheck of the situation that you're in. So that's why you say, I'm going to wait. But when I do leave, I'm going to tell them about themselves, or I'm going to let them know. You won't do it in the moment because it'll put you in a vulnerable state.
Ooh.
So around the boundaries that you set, you're like, box. I got to stay within this box, within these boundaries of my vulnerability by not saying anything. But I do got this little asterisk down here in the bottom right corner that on my way out, I'm going to let them have it. So, yeah, that's the example. I've done it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, when?
Previous employment, and I actually went to the supervisor and told him, like.
Was it like a big dramatic, like?
Nah, I ain't really dramatic.
You're
like
really
that.
not.
Nah, but I went and told him, I was like, hey, look, I feel like I want to share this, and I'm going to do it now because I don't feel like you can retaliate against me. I feel like I would have been given different assignments. My roles would have changed. You would have treated me differently. You would have looked at me differently. But, I expressed some of my frustrations, but I not only expressed frustrations, I expressed some things that I felt like could have been done differently to improve, my experience, but also the people that were still there, that we all talked about the same thing in the circles while I was there.
Yeah.
I spoke on their behalf on my way out. And I didn't say anybody told me this or anybody said this. I just said, you might want to think about these things with some of your current employees. They work hard. They're dedicated. They need a little inspiration. And this is a way that you can do that. But I can tell you this, these things are not effective. You think they're effective because you think you know everything, and you really don't, because you're not doing the groundwork that we're doing. Oh yeah, I said it just like that.
Yeah.
You're not doing the groundwork that we're doing. And because you're so high up, you think you're almighty, and you just come in and you give directives and you change things and you make recommendations, but you don't know what's going on and you don't ask anybody. You're making it difficult and challenging for the people that are actually doing the work. So I shared that with him, and, obviously he thought that I was just bitter, and he said that. He was like, well, I feel like you're just bitter, and, good luck on your future endeavors. I was like, you don't even mean that. Don't say it if you don't mean it. And we kind of had our little back and forth, and I just told him that, as a supervisor, I learned a lot from you.
Yeah.
I learned how not to supervise.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the best lesson you can take.
Oh man, I mean, we had our little conversation, and I haven't talked to him since then, but I felt like it was time to share. But that was one of those things where I felt like if I would have said it in the moment, I would have put myself in a vulnerable position.
Yeah, for sure.
Now back to the question that you asked. If you're not planning on going anywhere, you don't have any opportunities, and you feel like you need to communicate something, how do you do it? Mm-hmm. Tactfully. And you find ways
without oversharing.
Yeah. And you find ways to state possible solutions to some of the challenges that you're having in a tactful way without oversharing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very solution oriented.
Solution oriented.
So come with solutions.
Yes.
If you have issues.
Yes.
And this translates to relationships too.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And sometimes it may be received and sometimes it may not. And that still means don't overshare, because you're going to put yourself in a vulnerable position. And if you're not ready for that, don't do it.
So I think we've been talking about this. Do you have any other, are there any other negatives that you see to being vulnerable besides like oversharing?
I don't. And you have to do it in your own way at the time that you feel is best for you. Mm-hmm. So we're not just sitting here saying, go be vulnerable, tell everybody you meet all of your business and share with the world. Like, you have to make sure that you're doing things that fit you and what you're trying to accomplish, and when you feel like the appropriate time for you to be vulnerable is.
And I would just say, just to reiterate, because I think that you touched on this, but understand, like, read the emotional environment of that situation before understanding if you can be vulnerable or not.
Yeah, definitely.
And I said it that way because typically I would say, like, if we're talking about business or career, I would say, like, understand and read the political environment that you're in if you're able to be as vulnerable as you want to, and then tailor back your vulnerability depending on what type of political environment you're in. So definitely. You might be in an environment, because I think it's important to be vulnerable, but you just might have to be vulnerable in different levels. If you're in a very high political, like very bureaucratic, everybody like looks to a top leader like they're just amazing, then you have to respect that. And there's sometimes things that you can say and you can't say, and you just have to know what those lines are in your organization. Sometimes if it's a little more laissez-faire, then you can be more vulnerable. And then understand how it is in relationships too. Like, hopefully in your romantic and your intimate relationships that you're close with people, you can be more vulnerable. But you might have friendships like with some people that you trust a lot that you can be very vulnerable, and some friendships maybe you can't be as vulnerable with those people, but you can still be friends with them, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
And for all the guys that are listening, like, if you did grow up like me and you do have those like ingrained mentality of be tough, don't be vulnerable, don't express yourself. Like, if you want to have a successful relationship, you need to get rid of all that. Like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to express yourselves, because when you don't do it, all you're going to do is leave it up to your partner to make up their own stuff. And that's not what you want. No. So be expressive, be vulnerable, open yourself up. Do it tactfully if that works for you, and try to break through all of those ingrained and instilled things that you learn. Like, let it go. It's okay to be expressive. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to be affectionate. If you want to be successful in your relationship. If you don't, then don't do any of that. Word to your mother.
Word to your mother.
But I just wanted to share that. I don't know where that came from.
Well, I was gonna say it's probably the best place to end, honestly.
Word to your mother.
Boom.
Now, for all the dudes though, I definitely wanted to say that, because I know for me, and I'm pretty sure, I don't want to speak for all the dudes, but I'm pretty sure that there are a large number of dudes that are in the same scenario that I'm in, and I'm here to tell you that it's okay. It's cool. You ain't gonna lose no cool points with the person that matters. So If you're trying to get the cool points, be vulnerable.
Yes, agree. Yeah.
I definitely want to share that.
All right. I think that's it.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
That's it.
Yeah.
So,
as always,
it's never too late to make success your lifestyle. Until the next time.
Peace.
But you gonna say mine? Peace.
You said mine, so let's try again. Until the next time.
Peace.
Yeah.
All right.
See?
Wait.
Routine.
No, wait a minute.
Oh.
We ain't going nowhere right now. We done, but y'all gonna get this last little minute commentary. So you started off mixing it up, and I want to end mixing it up, but you gonna talk about some I did yours. Didn't you just give me a lecture about mixing it up?
No, it's great.
All right, I just had to do that. All right, y'all. For real though, this time. As always, it's never too late to make success your lifestyle. We out.
Until next time.
I did it all by myself.
Oh, you did.
Bye, y'all.